Today and Assalamu Alaikum. Greeting of peace and prosperity. I am Ahmad Haimidi from College of Education, major in Sciences. Indeed, my courtesy to our subject teacher, Professor Donna S. Aliman, a pleasant day to you. My task here is to discuss to you the lesson 26 entitled Cognitive Development of the High School Learners. To have you an idea for what I am going to discuss and what is the importance of this lesson, here are the overview of our topic. In this lesson, you will learn the cognitive development of the high school learners, which as a future teachers, you should understand the various theories and to be able to relate this to your teaching and learning process. Indeed, before formally start to our discussion, here are the learning outcomes of this lesson. At the end of this lesson, students can be able to describe the theories of cognitive thinking and relate this to the basis of teaching and learning. Identify the avenues for the adolescent learners acquiring metacognition, elevating his thinking ability base. Define overachievement and underachievement and propose possible solution to underachievement. Explain the outcomes of the adolescent's new thinking skills, inclusive of egocentrism, idealism, and increased argumentativeness. So here you go. Let me ask you first, what is cognitive development? Cognitive development is a construction of thought or processing, including remembering, problem solving, and decision making, from childhood through adolescence to adulthood. Generally speaking, cognitive development means how children think, explore, and figure things out. It is the development of knowledge, skills, problem solving, and disposition. At the stage of adolescence and entering into high school, ang pag-iisip ng isang bata ay patuloy na lumalawak kumpara sa stage ng elementary. They can think abstractly, analytically, hypothetically, and logically, which is lahat nito ay nadidevelop during adolescence period. These changes are marked by the acquisition of new cognitive skills due to the brain's increasing in weight and refining synaptic connections. Sa patuloy na pagbabago ng physical na kaanyuhan ay sumasabay din ang pattern ng pag-iisip natin. It is basically refers to how person perceive, think, kung ano ang nakita niya sa mga nakakapalibot sa kanya. Through physical changes and the transition of adolescence, sumasabay din ang pagdami ng nalalaman ng utak natin, which is merong dalawang nerve sa utak natin na kasamang pagbabago sa kaisipan natin. Ito ay corpus callosum, myelination, or mas kilala sa tawagang prefrontal cortex. Corpus callosum, acquisition of new skills due to the brain increasing weight and refining synaptic connections. Meaning, ang corpus callosum, ang trabaho naman nito ay sinisigurado niya na ang dalawang magkabilang side ng utak natin ay nagkakaintindihan at nagbibigay ng signal sa bawat isa. Myelination, the process of continuous concentration of brain cell in prefrontal cortex and temporal and parietal areas. Myelination or prefrontal cortex. Meaning, ibig sabihin nito ay matatagpuan sa frontal labor ng utak natin na ang function nito ay nag-complex ng behavior, including planning, verbal influence, and language also. Through brain scanning, 3 peaks in brain maturation have been identified by neurological scientists, and these are at the age of 12, age 15, and age 18.5, coinciding with operational thinking processes of logical reasoning. Ibig sabihin nun, at the age of 12, 15, and 18.5 ay kasabay nito ang pag-reach na ang itong stage of age ay may kakayahan na ang bata na mag-isip from logical reasoning, formulate abstract and general ideas involving number, cause and effect, and this happen during adolescence period. Piaget formulated the theory of formal operational thinking, which demonstrate how the cognitive capacity of adolescents allow him/her to go beyond the sensible and concrete, dwell on what is abstract, hypothetically, multidimensionally, and possible. Sa theories ni Piaget, ay napakalaga ng konsepto nito upang maintindihan lubos ang pag-iisip ng isang bata, which is nag-formulate siya ng formal operational thinking nang lubos malaman kung paano mag-iisip ang isang bata. So dito sa formal operational thinker ay pag-uusapan ng high school learner kung paano sila mag-process ng information, the way na mag-iisip sila, and so on. Therefore, sa theories ni Piaget, nag-propose siya ng 3 types of formal operational thinking. Ito ay propositional thinking, relativistic thinking, and real versus possible. Kung saan naglalaman ng gusto ang kakayanan ng isang bata mag-isip. Formal operational thinker ay meron siyang 3 type, which is relativistic thinking, propositional thinking, real versus possible, na naglalaman ng gusto ang kakayanan ng isang bata kung paano ito mag-isip. So A propositional thinking, assertion of outside visual evidence. Ibig sabihin nito, dito naman sinasabi na kapag ang high school learner ay nagkakaroon na siya ng sariling konsepto o pananaw patungkol sa isang bagay, na kahit hindi na ito makita, basta't may nabanggit lang ng isang object, ay malalaman niya kung ano ang hugis o kulay nito. For example, magbigay yung structure ng object like base. Magkaroon na siya ng idea kung ano ang itsura ng base at kung saan ito ginagamit. B. Relativistic thinking. Subjectively making an opinion on fact. What does it mean? Ito ay nangangahulugan na ang high school learner ay hindi lang nakastick or nakatuon sa isang opinion. Kumakalap at nananaliksik pa ito ng ibang information or sources hanggang sa mapatunayan niya na isang information ay tama o mali. So yun ang relativistic thinking. So letter C, real versus possible. Examining a situation and exploring the possible in terms of situation or solution. So meaning, ang high school learner ay nagkakaroon ng isang opinion patungkol sa isang situation. For example, sa group reporting, kung ano ang sinabi ng leader, hindi lang siya mag-a-agree na mag-agree doon. Hindi, meron pa rin siyang sasabihin or opinion patungkol sa isang topic. So, ganon. For Piaget, one indication of this presence of formal operational thinking is the ability of the adolescent's thinker for combinational analysis, which is his taking stock of the effect of several variables in a situation, testing one variable at a time and not randomly. So, for example dito ay experiment. Diba sa experiment, hindi lang ginagawa at once. Meron siyang first trial, second trial, until hindi ito mag-success. Sa experiment na yun, hindi lang isang element ang napapaloob. So, andyan palagi yung nagko-combine kayo ng elements. So, dito na pumapasok yung sinasabing combinational analysis dahil inaalam ninyo ang isang bagay. A new thought capacity, known as hypothetic reductive reasoning, emerged in the adolescent's reasoning from general fact situation to a particular conclusion. So, ibig sabihin dito sa hypothetical reductive reasoning, ay nagkakaroon ng general to specific na conclusion ang kaisipan ng isang bata kung bakit nga ba naging ganun ang situation. Outside formal operational thinking, which can be developed by mathematics and science studies, the adolescent enters into a new capacity which makes him a problem-solving thinker. So what does it mean? So meaning, this is an ability to use knowledge, fact, data to effectively solve a problem. Hindi ito nangangahulugan na kailangan mabilisan na kasagutan sa isang sitwasyon. It means you have to be able to think on your feet to assess problem and find solution. So moving on, as in information processing theorist Robert Sigler views the influence of the environment on thinking. He sees cognitive growth not as stage of development, but more of sequential acquisition of specific knowledge and strategies for problem solving. Base sa kay Robert Sigler ay nakapokus siya sa environment ng student kung paano ba mag-isip ang isang estudyante through his environment. Sa kanyang theories na picture out niya ng pag-iisip ng estudyante as high school ay mas mabilis kumpara sa elementary level. Sigler in his experiment used a role model in a relation to balance weight, distance, conflict weight, conflict distance, and conflict balance problem. He examined the correct and wrong answer to each problem until ma-figure out niya yung proseso ng pag-iisip ng isang bata. Thereupon, adolescents may show A. Speed. In information processing, coupled with greater awareness and control and acquired knowledge base, a more efficient kind of thinking compared with that of the child. So, ibig sabihin, ang high school student ay mas mabilis mag-process ng information unlike elementary level. B. Complexity. By way of considering longer-term implication and possibilities beyond the here and now and. Sinasabi dito na isang information ay hindi lang basta-basta nakatuon sa kaisipan ng bata. Specifically o literally, pinapalawak na ito o naghahanap pa siya ng another information about doon sa situation. Letter C. Increase volume. Of information processing coupled with longer memory span. Let's proceed to the metacognition. Metacognition is that this involves the ability to think about thinking, evidenced by awareness of and capacity to identify one's own thinking processes or strategies of perception, comprehension, memory, and problem solving. So what does it mean? So, ibig sabihin, ito ay tumutukoy sa pangsariling kakayahan mag-isip, gumawa ng pangsariling kilos na patuloy na nananaliksik and hindi ito nag-stick sa isang information lamang. The knowledge acquired through experience is stored in long-term memory and now becomes more declarative, I know that, as well as procedural, I know how. So, ibig sabihin, ang mga impormasyon na nakukuha through experience ay patuloy na dumarami at nagdadagdagan at dumadami ang nalalaman natin. As you can see, declarative, I know that, meaning is an individual knowledge about himself or herself. As learner, we can consciously aware that you understand the information. While procedural is I know how, meaning the practical capability to monitor and control one's own cognitive activity in a given task. It is include planning and evaluating and monitoring processes such as judgment of learning. So let's proceed to the overachiever. Overachiever, achievement, and IQ tests are standard measurement of the learner's ability as well as potential for success in given areas. While IQ tests alone do not measure the great number of abilities that are part of human intelligence, they are still relatively good predictor of success in school achievement. So meaning, sila yung mga estudyante na napapaloob ang kanilang intelligent quotient sa percentage ng IQ test, na meron tayong percentage ng IQ. Kapag ang bata ay papasok sa top 3 and top 5 on the bell curve, ay kinukonsider sila na gifted student. Sila yung mataas ang academic grades and top student sa klase. In addition, overachiever are frequently identified as students who perform above and beyond the standard expect of their age level. They are often constructed with an underachiever who are those who perform less well than educator expect. Sa overachiever, mapapansin natin ang pag isang bata ay nasa overachiever ay sila yung mga bata na may angking galing sa kahit anong subject. Mapa extracurricular or inside the classroom ay magagaling sila in terms of any activities. So moving on to the overachiever students. So we have 7 listed as characteristic of overachiever. Number 1, positive self-value. So sila yung may self-esteem, confidence, and optimism. Mapapansin natin ang overachiever students, sila yung palaging nagtataas ng kamay sa klase at nag-o-oral, di ba? So number 2, openness to authority. Sila yung responsive sa mga expectation ng mga guro pati ang parents nila. 3, positive interpersonal relation. Sila yung responsive and sensitive sa mga feelings ng iba. 4, less conflict on the issues of self-autonomy. Mapapansin natin yung overachiever students, sila palagi yung nag-lead, nag-initiate at malaya silang gumawa ng sarili nilang choices. 5, academic orientation. Meaning, sila yung mahilig mag-discover ng new knowledge, may interest in the studies values and varied field of study. 6, goal-oriented. So, meaning sila yung mahilig organizing, planning, setting target, prioritizing long-term goals over short-term pleasure. 7, control over anxiety. Makikita rin naman natin na kapag ang overachiever students, sila palagi yung relaxed in performance, organized tasks, let's say sa reporting system, well-organized ang kanilang visual aids, hindi halata na naprepare sila sa kanilang topic. So yun. So let's proceed to the underachiever. Underachiever is an individual whose performance are below the measured IQ level are labeled underachievers. It is a person and especially a student who fails to achieve his or her potential or does not do as well expect. Meaning, in basic terms, underachievement is seen as a discrepancy between a student's academic potential and how he or she is actually performing in school. This potential is often revealed through performance or intelligence and achievement tests as well as observational data. Sila yung mga bata na hindi umaabot sa IQ test ang percentage ng kanilang kakayahan. Means the measure of academic ability, their grades are below their measured aptitude for academic achievement. So we have 2 types of underachiever. First, withdrawn underachiever. More passive of their overt behavior, submissive and docile. Ibig sabihin, or in short, the withdrawn underachievers are children who appear bored and disinterested and do not try in school. They follow school rules but are usually non-participating member of a classroom. Number 2 is aggressive underachievers. Tend to be authoritative if not disruptive and rebellious. So meaning, aggressive underachievers may be described as disruptive, talkative, rebellious, and even potentially hostile in classroom. Those children who have poor self-esteem and extremely limited view of themselves or see themselves in terms of failures, possesses, then helpless orientations. So moving on, let's proceed to the potential involvement. There are many theories on the underachievement, but generally, the influence of parents appear to be the dominant influence on the adolescents. Achievement level more than peer or group influence. So what does it mean? So ibig sabihin, ito yung mga potential na involved sa overachievers and underachievers. In short, ito yung pagkakaiba ng magulang na between overachievers and underachievers. So we have 5 characteristics of parents of high achievers and demonstrate the following. Number 1 is positive attitude about learning. So sila yung mga magulang na ini-expose nila ang kanilang mga anak sa mga gawain gusto nila like paglaro, travel, and so on. Number 2 is harmonious and supportive relationship. Sila yung mga magulang na sinusuportahan ang mga anak nila kung saan masaya at patuloy na may connection sa relationship ng pamilya. Number 3, their own capabilities of success. Sila yung mga magulang na hinahayaan ng kanilang mga anak na magdesisyon sa sariling kagustuhan at gumawa ng mga bagay-bagay. Number 4 is encouragement and support for your children's achievement without under pressure. Ibig sabihin, dito naman is sila yung mga magulang na todo max ang suporta sa mga anak. With or without achievement, patuloy pa rin ang suporta at di pinipressure ang kanilang mga anak. Number 5, active involvement in the school program and in parent-teachers community activities. Meaning, sila yung mga magulang na active sa mga schools activities and programs. Sila at patuloy na may connection sa teacher ng kanilang mga anak. So moving on, so we have also parent of underachiever demonstrate the following. First, indifference and disinterestedness in academic and extracurricular activities of their children. Sila yung mga magulang na walang hilig sa mga activity ng kanilang anak at kulang sa suporta literally. Number 2, authoritarian and restrictive and rejecting attitude of the opposite, namely being excessively lax so as to leave their children on their own without any involvement of support. Ito yung mga magulang na hinahayaan ng kanilang anak without any supporting. 3. Excessive indolence, solicitousness, and protectiveness, those stifling their children's self-initiative. So next, the possible adolescent's behavior during cognitive growth. We have 2, which is egocentrism and the idealism. So egocentrism, this is a tendency among adolescents to think too much of themselves. Meaning, egocentrism occurs when a child is unable to distinguish between their own perspective and that of the other person. Children tend to stick to their own viewpoint rather than consider the viewpoint of others. Indeed, they are not even aware that such a concept as different viewpoints exists. So sobrang naiisip sila patungkol sa kanilang sarili or nakukonfuse sila sa physical appearance, actions, feelings, ideas, and etc. So number 2 is idealism. The adolescents often thought on the possible, meaning idealism is a way of thinking characterized by solution and beliefs that are very optimistic and positive but not realistic or well thought out. This type of thinking is typically of adolescents. So moving on, let's go to the developing occupational skills. Generally, the high school curriculum tends to focus on academic cognitive learnings, neglecting attention to occupational skills. In the Philippines, there are evidence that the high school graduates are lack skills to directly enter the labor sectors. So dito, sa developing of occupational skills are a set of knowledge and skills that employees need to a specific job or occupations. So next is basic personality factors are the following. First is realistic. These personality types are prefers practical tasks often requiring physical labor and motor coordination. Second, investigate. They prefer to think rather than act. Third, social. They are social and tend to engage in interpersonal situation and social interaction. Fourth, conventional. They paper structure tasks. Fifth, enterprising. They are skilled and constructive in thoughts and action and are capable of leading others. Sixth, artistic. They prepare to unstructured tasks and measure ability for self-expressions. Next is attitude and abilities needed for gainful occupationals. These are the 1. Self-reliance. 2. Ability to manage money. 3. Social responsibility. 4. Mature work orientation. 5. Personal responsibility. 6. Positive attitude about work. So the last one is here is the extracurricular activities. School activities outside the subject for classroom study are mechanism for further development of the adolescent students, allowing the acquisition of new attitudes. Dito is para makita ang pag-uugali ng bata at para maboost ang kanyang skills, confidence, as meron tayong tinatawag na extracurricular activities. Nang sa ganun, ang isang bata ay magkaroon ng chance na makipagsalamuha or makipag-socialize sa ibang tao. In addition to that, extracurricular activities, also known as extra-academic activities. Extracurricular activities include sports, student government, community service, employment, arts, hobbies, and educational clubs. Extracurricular all complemented an academic curriculum.